everybody, welcome back to the next part in my dialing in series for our Line 6 Helix. This episode I wanted to do something a little bit different, not so much talk about a specific amp model, but rather dive in and talk about some of the new overdrive models that we have in our latest firmware 2.8 update. The King of Tone model, the ZenDrive, what are they called here in the, I can never keep all the things right, the Tone Sovereign and the Dianna Drive, and also the Heir Apparent, which is kind of like half of a Tone Sovereign from what I understand. So I wanted to dive in and take a look at some of these. They seem to be very popular. I've only just now started looking at the King of Tone. I did a little bit of research about it, read a little bit about it. I've never used one in real life, heard nothing but great things about it. I did at one point own a ZenDrive pedal and really love that pedal. And I think that the little bit that I have used it in the 2.8 firmware update, I think Line 6 really did a great job modeling it and really nailed it. So that's really, I was really happy to see that. So let's, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use a preset that I dialed in shortly after 2.8 came out, which was for the Grammatico amp. I believe I'm just using the Grammatico Norm amp model. Really nice, clean amp. Really happy with some of the tones I'm getting out of that. And I'm going to just kind of use these new overdrives to kind of hit the front end of that and see what we can come up with for making that amp break up a little bit more, get a little bit more distortion overdrive out of it with these new amp models. But first thing I want to do, let's go over actually, as you'll see here, I've got HX Edit up, but let's do this. Let's actually go over to a couple things. We'll start off with the King of Tone. Now I just Googled the Analog Man King of Tone, came to the Analog Man site itself where they have a page about the King of Tone. I did a little bit of reading about it. So basically what we have is you have within the normal King of Tone 2 overdrive pedals running in series from what I've understood in my research. Identical to pedals, right? So you can kind of stack overdrives, right? And there's some really interesting settings here that you can go with a little bit lower gain and maybe stack two of them together. Now, the Heir Apparent that we have is half of that, and I'm not even certain what the name of that is in real life. So anyways, I should have probably checked on that before. But anyways, it's gonna be half of the King of Tone pedal, right? Anybody who knows the name of it, just leave it in the comments below. But there's a couple of really interesting things on here. And if we come over first to HX Edit, we'll see here, and I'm on the Heir Apparent here. So if we see on the Tone Sovereign, we have basically the same controls. Gain 1, Tone 1, Presence 1, Clipping 1, Gain Mod 1, Level 1, and then we just repeat those same controls with a 2 beside them as it's the second pedal. And we also have the control over the voltage from 9 volt to 18 volt. So when we go to the Heir Apparent, it's just one pedal, one version of that, okay? So let's just take a look at that for simplicity's sake. Then we'll bounce over to the Tone King or the Tone Sovereign in our Line 6 Helix. But if we look here, it says we have different modes, right? And on the real pedal, it's used you switch these by going into the pedal with little dip switches. So much easier on the Helix, right? We can even control these with snapshots if we want, which is opens up a lot of great possibilities. So each pedal is going to have a normal overdrive mode, and it says this is a standard King of Tone sound, a little less drive available than a tube screamer. The clean mode, this mode has less drive and can be used for clean boosts or clearer, louder sounds. It's like a clean boost with an overdrive pedal. Clean mode is even less compressed than the standard overdrive mode. Distortion mode, this mode has more drive than the standard overdrive mode, a touch of hard distortion versus the softer distortion, soft clipping for the normal overdrive mode. It's much more compressed yet retains the King of Tone character. This mode can get about twice as loud as a tube screamer. Think of it as a cross between a Boss DS1 distortion and an OD1 overdrive with more clarity. All right, so it gives us a little bit of an idea of what these modes are going to do for us. It says either side can be set to any of the 3 modes with the dip switches. I recommend setting the right side for most distorted sounds and the left for cleaner. Then when used together, you get more of a volume boost. But if you want more distortion and compression, you can try it the other way around. So that's a pretty interesting thing to know as well. At low drive settings or when playing softly, there's not much difference between the 3 modes. They all clean up very nicely as the clipping does not start until you drive the knob up higher. This pedal cleans up a lot better than a tube screamer type pedal if you play softly or turn your guitar down. They will not have the underlying fuzziness that most pedals have. So pretty interesting stuff. It also also mentions here the voltage change, how it can be run at 9 volts or 18 volts. New King of Tone pedals can be run at 18 volts, no problem. It says running the King of Tone at higher voltage will give it some more headroom and clarity, especially in clean boost mode, so we'll keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go over and take a look at what we have. Well, what I thought we could do is we have our gain, tone, and volume level, which would be the 3 controls on the actual pedal itself. Then the presence, that was another thing that was actually mentioned here. Where was it? They said that each side also has configuration dip switches and a treble trim pot inside. Okay, so I'm guessing that the treble boost knob on the inside of the pedal, there's a small knob or trim pot which can be turned by hand or with a pick or small screwdriver. Jim does not need more treble for his telly, so you know, a bright guitar probably doesn't need this, but I'm guessing, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, that this presence control is probably that internal knob to get more high end out of it if we so desire. So let's just keep this for now. Gain at 5, tone at 5. We'll start with the clean boost or the boost, and we have a gain mod here which allows us to go from normal to a higher overdrive, and we'll start with 9 volts. So here is the sound of it on, I'm playing my Yamaha SA2200 on the bridge pickup. This is with no pedals engaged. This is just the Grammatico amp. Nice clean sound. Okay, let's bring the air apparent in on these settings. So just 5 on gain, 5 on tone, presence down, set to boost, gain mod if normal, levels at 6.2 and voltages at 9. Off. So just a little tiny bite to it. It's really not adding much distortion or overdrive. Let's do this. Let's crank up the gain and see what happens with it just set on boost mode. I'll bring the level down a little bit to compensate for that. Here's the original clean sound without it. Quite nice, even cranked up with the gain. Let's see what the tone control does. We'll max it out and just sort of see what the maximum extreme settings. A lot more kind of presence to it, cuts more. Let's take that tone all the way down. As to be expected, it kind of muddies things up a bit. So let's go back to 5. You know, I might bump that to 6, 6.5. Bring the volume pot down. So it does clean up very nicely. I'm happy there. Let's see what the presence knob does. We'll go maxed out. Yeah, so it adds a nice little bite to it, a little bit of presence. Let's maybe put that at 3. I like those settings. What happens now if we take the gain mod and go higher up to the higher mode on it? So here's the normal. Kind of compresses more and you get a little bit more gain out of it. Very nice. You know, then you can maybe pull our gain back a bit. Nice stuff. Let's go back up to 10 here with it. Bring this back. Let's see what happens when we change the 9 volt and 18 volt. Like I said, we get a little bit more headroom, so it's probably going to be a little bit cleaner. Wow, almost like a real compression to it. Like a sag to it, right? It's really kind of biting down on the pick attack. I think I prefer the 9 volt setting on that. Okay, so let's see what happens now if we keep these settings all the same, and all we'll do is we'll go between the boost, the overdrive, and the distortion, see the different distortion characteristics of each one. So here's the boost again. Overdrive. You can hear that soft clipping coming in. It's much smoother. Really nicely compressed. I really like that. Now, back to the boost. What about distortion? Bit of a volume drop on that. Bump that up a bit. Back to the boost. Sorry, the levels aren't matched there. I'd have to set up a sort of a snapshot thing to get them to do that. And then overdrive. Now if we go higher on the gain mod, so on the distortion with that is much more compressed. What happens if we do the 9 volt to 18 volt? Not as noticeable there as it mentioned in the manual or on the website. Is when it's just set on boost. So really nice stuff. That's really cool. Okay, so let's go over to the tone sovereign then and see what we could do here as far as stacking. Let's go, I don't know, like what did we have roughly? Let's go overdrive. Yeah, we'll set it to higher. Okay, we'll have the gain down on the second one. So for now, level up. Okay. Let's bring the level up just a touch on that. Okay, so then go to the second side and we'll maybe set that to the clean boost and bring a bit of that in. How's that clean up? And with that off, the clean sound of the amp. As we can see, the possibilities are pretty endless here, especially when you're going to start stacking the two sides of the tone sovereign. And keep in mind, we could snapshot enable any of these to switch between any of the possibilities. So a clean amp with the tone sovereign and the snapshots, man, we've got endless possibilities. So very cool pedal. I'm really, really happy with the way that's sounding. I hope that sort of gives you a bit of an insight. I'm not really trying to dial in any particular tone today with it, more just sort of give everybody an idea of what everything is doing, all the controls and what they're for and what their effects are. So hopefully that helps you, a few of you, those folks. I do have this Grammatico patch up on custom tone, I believe with the Dianna Drive, which I'm gonna look at next. But you know, feel free to download it and then add a tone sovereign or heir apparent to it and play around with it like I was today. So let's dive over to the Dianna Drive then. And again, before we do that, let's do this. Let's go over to the Hermida Audio quick start guide for the pedals, where they kind of give us a little rundown on what the controls are for. This is a much more straight ahead simple pedal. We have gain, voice, tone, and level. I think gain and level are going to be pretty obvious, but let's figure out what this voice and tone is going to do. First of all, tone performs a basic high cut function with the tone knob set fully counterclockwise. Higher frequencies are fully attenuated. So it's going to be darker to brighter sound. Pretty typical of a tone knob. Voice, it says, tunes the pedal to the amplifier and guitar. The voice knob performs two functions. It limits or increases the total amount of gain in the pedal. To limit the gain, rotate counterclockwise or lower. To increase the gain, rotate clockwise. So kind of like a gain control would work. But it also at the same time adjusts the bottom end response to the pedal. So to increase the bottom end, we rotate counterclockwise. So as the gain's going down, the bottom end is coming up. And then as we rotate it the other way, the gain would be going up while the bass would be decreasing, right? And then, as it says here, remember to adjust the gain knob to compensate for changes in the overall gain of the pedal. So let's take a look at that then. And let's just hear what it sounds like with everything kind of just set maybe to, I don't know, let's go right up the middle to 5. Okay. Here's the clean sound of the amp. Here's the Dianna Drive. Very nice. So the tone, I think, on that could come up a bit. Beautiful tones out of that. Really, really nice. So let's see what happens with we just crank the gain up. Very compressed sounding. Beautiful sustain out of that. What happens on lower gain settings here? With it off. Okay, let's do this then. Let's see what happens to the gain as we use the voice knob. So more gain as the manual told us, right? And less bottom end. So there's more bottom. A fatter tone, but with less gain. And a thinner tone with more gain. So that's pretty interesting to know. What happens if we use that when we're maxed on 10? Gain comes down a bit, fattens up. So there's about the most gain you're going to get from the pedal, but it's thinner sounding. So maybe if you did want that, you bring your tone control down to compensate for the thinning out of the sound. Don't know if they meant it to be totally opened up like that, but it sounds kind of cool. Very smooth overdrive. But if we did something like this, maybe. How's it clean up? Really nice stuff. I'm liking it. That's probably my favorite overdrive pedal in the Helix now, I'm thinking. I really, really enjoy them. There's a lot of possibilities once we understand what all the controls do. What do you guys think? Like I said, I have the Grammatico preset up on Custom Tone. You guys can add the Dianna Drive and the Air Apparent Tone Solver to it and play around with it like I did today. Now that we sort of understand, maybe a lot of you folks probably already did understand what those controls were doing, but knowing and a little bit of knowledge on what the controls were actually designed to do really will help us to be able to dial it in quicker and kind of in a more instinctive manner, knowing exactly what each control is for and is doing. And now we've heard it, we can kind of be a little more educated, hopefully, and be able to dial our tones in a little bit faster. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I didn't play too much or too little, or talk too much or too little. Thanks so much for tuning in. Grab the preset off of Custom Tone and then add your pedals to it and have some fun with it. And I hope you guys come up with some great sounding tones that suit your situations and your ideals and your playing style and your guitars, etc. So please like the video, share it if you don't mind, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with some more content. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.